How is it going, YouTube? Most Sports Network back again today. Today we're talking about the number 21 team in my NFL power rankings, the Houston Texans. Um, and a lot of these more recent videos have been focusing more on the positives, and this team has a lot of those. But I am going to rip this team hard, and they deserve it, quite frankly, because they had one of the worst moves I've ever seen in NFL history and have one of the most baffling situations in the league that I don't really understand. And that's where we're going to start today with Bill O'Brien. As he says there on the Texans website, head coach and general manager. Why is Bill O'Brien the general manager of this team? All he has done is bring the team to the playoffs, potentially win a wild card game, and that's it. He has not made it past the divisional round. Why does Bill O'Brien why is he still the coach of this team after the collapse in the playoffs against the Chiefs? And B, why is he the general manager of this team after trading DeAndre Hopkins, the top three receiver in the league at the moment? I think probably between him, Thomas, probably those two as the most complete receivers in the game right now. For nothing, for a running back and a second round pick, and you throw in a fourth too. I don't get how this guy falls into more power after just blunder after blunder. Um, I don't think he has the players with him. He he trades their best player away, a veteran of this team, DeAndre Hopkins, because they don't agree, I guess, and the team is going to suffer for it. Along with, I don't know if they're going to buy into him because of how they lost last year in just a embarrassing performance against the Kansas City Chiefs, where you have a huge lead and you just crumble. It's embarrassing that Bill O'Brien's still here. Um, I think Bill O'Brien can be a good head coach. Um, he have been given general manager power? Absolutely not. As well as I don't know if similarly to the Atlanta Falcons, what happened to them after losing to the Patriots in the Super Bowl, I think a very similar thing can happen here with the Texans. For as talented as they are at certain parts of the game, other parts, it is just there are bigger holes here than they had last season. The team definitely got worse in the offseason, and that's why I'm ripping them. Now, we're going to go into some positives. Before we finish talking about, we have Romeo Crennel. He's the assistant head coach and technically not the defensive coordinator anymore, but Romeo Crennel's a great defensive mind, and he's going to have a lot of impact on the defense. So he's there doing that. And then you also have Tim Kelly as the offensive coordinator. I don't think anyone's really horrified of Tim Kelly offenses, but he has Deshaun Watson, so he can get the job done. I don't know why I'm not at the depth chart yet. My bad. We're gonna head over there now and take a look at things. Should this be? Yeah, okay, that's the depth chart. So flip that to the schedule. We're good. Positives. Deshaun Watson. Oh my God, Deshaun Watson is excellent. I could talk about him all day, how well he was. Unfortunately, he's not Patrick Mahomes. That's the only thing has a downside on him. But Deshaun Watson has been great. If we click on him here, that was his stats last season. I think he could still go up from that, although it's going to be tough without DeAndre Hopkins. But I think if anyone can do it, it's Watson. He's an excellent quarterback. I think top 10 in the league. Could make his way to top 5 in the league after this season. Love what I've seen from him so far. Then also, shout out to A.J. McCarron. I think he's a pretty good backup in this league, all things considered. And if Deshaun Watson goes down because of just some fluke injury, A.J. McCarron can come in, and I think he can keep, maybe not, he will keep the Texans in games. I don't know if he will win them games. Well, Deshaun Watson definitely wins you games. And Deshaun Watson is the only reason I don't have this team in like dead last because there's some pieces, but Deshaun Watson and my how much I value quarterbacks is the only reason why this team is as high as it is. The rest of this team is really underwhelming. We go to the running back group, David Johnson and Duke Johnson. David Johnson has been injury prone for the last 2 seasons now. If you can get him to be healthy, he is probably a top 15 running back. That is a big if, though. And then Duke Johnson is a receiving back specialist who has been okay in Houston. He was pretty good last season, but Duke Johnson isn't going to be wrecking any games. And I think this running back group is average to below average at best. Moving on to the receiving group, and here's something to talk about. Obviously, it is worse than last year, and that's not a secret to anyone because they got rid of DeAndre Hopkins, and DeAndre Hopkins pretty much turns into Brandon Cooks because the Texans trade a second to get Cooks, even though they got a second for Hopkins. I don't know what they're thinking, but they have Brandon Cooks now. Speed threat. Will Fuller is your number one now, who I think Will Fuller can be great when he's not injured, which is most of the time. But I'm pretty high on Will Fuller. I think Will Fuller can be a number 2 receiver in this league. I don't know if he's a number 1, but him and Cooks combined can be a dangerous duo, along with Randall Cobb, who's pretty decent. And I like this team's depth at receiver. I like Kiki Kuti. He was pretty good for them last year. And Kenny Stills has lots of memes surrounding him. But I think he's a decent like 5th receiver on a team. Kenny Stills isn't some bum by any means versus some other 5th receivers in the league. Then another guy to look at here is Isaiah Coulter out of Rhode Island. He's a rookie. I think he could be impressive in some phases of the game. So I think this receiving core isn't bad, but it's just hard for me to evaluate it given that DeAndre Hopkins, a top 3 receiver, is no longer a part of it. And you could have this receiving group, just get rid of Cooks, have DeAndre Hopkins, and this receiving group looks exactly the same. I don't get it. Like, the only way this team is like any better from that move is at running back, but David Johnson is not worth anywhere near what DeAndre Hopkins is worth, so I'm just confused. And then at tight end, Darren Fells and Jordan Akins, they're not like top 10 tight ends by any means, but I think they're both serviceable. And Deshaun Watson, there are just more targets for him. I really like the depth. Along with Jordan Thomas, this receiving group has excellent depth, but the depth would be so much freaking better if it had DeAndre Hopkins instead of Brandon Cooks. And I'll stop beating the dead horse there, but it just upsets me a lot how incompetent general manager Bill O'Brien has been so far. More positive note, looking at the offensive line, Laramie Tunsil, really good left tackle. I've been impressed with him so far. From Miami to Houston, finally found their left tackle, thank God. And then Senio Clemente and Max Sharping. I don't really know who's going to win that battle, to be honest. They both played last year. They're both good, to be honest. Senio has a better PFF grade, so I'm cool with him starting. He has a decent grade. Then Nick Martin, similar. Nick Martin is an average guard or average center. He's not going to be setting the league on fire. He's no Travis Frederick, who's now retired. What other centers are beasts? Kelsey. He's not one of those guys, but he's solid. Then we look at Zach Fulton and Titus Howard. Zach Fulton is okay at guard at best. I think he's a bit of a weakness, but guard is far from this team's biggest hole right now. So Zach Fulton will hang in there. And then Titus Howard was a rookie last season. I expect him to improve. He wasn't awful, but he wasn't good either. So if Titus Howard takes a step forward, this offensive line is a piece that will work for this team. As a piece in the league where people have been ripping the Texans' offensive line for the past 4 or 5 seasons now, I feel like. And they finally have a group starting to gel together and play well with a franchise quarterback. So I think this offense can work. But again, I will not stop ripping it to death if things don't work. And if they don't win that playoff game without DeAndre Hopkins, I will mercilessly attack this team, as I kind of was earlier. So for what this team is, forgetting that trade happened, it's pretty solid on offense. And I think offense is going to be this team's strength as we go into the defense soon. So I'll just leave it. I'll leave it alone. I think the offense is worse, but I still think it'll be this team's strength. So going into their defense, there are some solid parts, but there's a lot of question marks. You start with the offensive line, or the defensive line. You got J.J. Watt. Will he stay healthy? Who the hell knows? Probably he won't. He had 4 sacks last season, which everyone was ripping him for. I like J.J. Watt when he's healthy. I think he's done being healthy, to be honest. But if he is, huge bonus for this team. If he's not, Angelo Blackson, who played a decent bit for this team last year, will have to come in, along with Charles Amenahu, and that's not going to be a very inspiring defensive line. I'm looking at nose tackle. This team did get worse there. They lost DJ Reader to the Cincinnati Bengals, who is a really quality nose tackle. So they're going to have to throw Brandon Dunn out there. Although they got Ross Blacklock in the draft, who I really like. I think he'll come in and be a really good starter for this team. Just with COVID, he's not there yet. And so this year, and let's get this straight, the Texans are competing this year. Bill O'Brien is coaching for his job. That's your second round pick, which I'm not sure which pick. It was either the Cooks one. The second round pick they got for Hopkins either became Blacklock or Brandon Cooks. Either way, it's not worth it. But I like Ross Blacklock quite a bit, and they got him with pretty good value in the second round. So a pretty good nose tackle group there. Not as good as DJ Reader by any means, but still decent. You look at some more edge rush. Obviously, J.J. Watt's going to rush the passer. But you also have Whitney Merciless, who, when healthy again, has had trouble staying healthy, but when healthy is quality. And then Brennan Scarlett, who I don't know how much better he's going to get. He's replacement level. He's not excellent. You're typically looking at J.J. Watt and Merciless to be your 2 premier pass rushers, though. And then Scarlett's another body there. So I don't dislike this team's pass rush, but the only way I like it is if players stay healthy. If it comes down to Angelo Blackson and Jonathan Grenard and Brennan Scarlett, then I'm pretty low on this pass rush. But I can't predict injuries are going to happen, so I won't. Linebackers, again, depth is an issue, but Benardrick McKinney and Zach Cunningham are very good linebackers, and they work well together. And I will give these 2 guys a lot of credit. The rest of these guys, I don't know too much about. Texans fans, if you're here, tell me about these guys. But neither of them have needed to play too much. That's why I don't really know much about them, because McKinney and Cunningham have played pretty well together. So props there to those guys. And then you go into the secondary, which I'm going to rip again. Like Justin Reed is developing. He's getting better at free safety. I think he's the most promising piece on this secondary. Then the rest of the guys have been, for the most part, sort of first-round bust kind of guys. I think Bradley Roby's okay, and Garyon Conley has pretty decent potential, but hasn't stuck he didn't get to stick with the Raiders. I don't remember if he was with a team between Raiders and Texans, but there's a reason the Raiders traded him, and he wasn't a slam dunk first round pick. Also have Vernon Hargreaves, who didn't really work out with the Bucks. So just middle of the line secondary guys. And I think the secondary is not going to be very good. You lose Jonathan Joseph and Tashawn Gibson. Watkins is going to replace Gibson. And I think both of those are pretty tough losses. As old as Jonathan Joseph was, I think still it's a drop off. I think the only way that this secondary is good is if Garyon Conley finally steps up and plays like the guy he was drafted to be. If he doesn't, I think this team probably crashes and burns a bit. Kicker and punter are fine. Nothing big there, obviously. Again, I'd say that most videos, punter lives matter, but Brian Anger isn't going to win or lose you any games. So that's the roster. Bill O'Brien is a turd. All right, we go to the schedule now, and oh my God, these first 4 games suck for this team. It's 4 teams I have in my top 12, and it could be a brutal start for this team. Kansas City, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Minnesota. Oh my, that is a rough stretch. If this team starts 3-0 or 0-4 and Bill O'Brien loses the locker room, this season could spiral quickly, and that's why I have them as low as I do. Now, I think they can beat Minnesota. Then after that they get Jacksonville, and then at Tennessee and Green Bay are tough. I think they'll probably split amongst those. So potential 3-4 going into the bye is kind of concerning, and then you continue to go to the other games. Jacksonville's definitely winnable. You get Jacksonville twice. I think Texans can sweep Jacksonville. They probably will stink this year. I talked about the Patriots game, the Patriots review in the last one. I think that's a coin flip, but I can see the Texans winning it. I think I lean Texans in that video as well. I see the Lions as worse. I see the Bengals as worse. Other than those teams, Patriots as worse. I think most of these teams on paper are better than the Texans. I think they'll probably split with the Colts as well. So with that, what I'm kind of leaning towards, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think they'll get one with the Colts, 7, 8. So 8 wins for this team is what I'm projecting as far as what I think they'll do. And I think given how much of a step back they took in the offseason with the step backs they had, with the playoff embarrassment, with Bill O'Brien still being there, and the potential of him losing the locker room, I think 8-8 is a fair record to give this team. Everything aside, all the criticism I've had, I still think this team can go 500, and that's how much I think Deshaun Watson is great, how much I think, as much as I dislike Bill O'Brien, I like his ability to coach an offense, and I think the defense has enough potential in it to win them games, but primarily it's Deshaun Watson. And so that's that. I'm going to stop rambling. Sorry for me. I don't know if this was therapy or torture for you Texans fans, but that's going to be all from me tonight. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys next time with the unveiling of the 20th team in my NFL Power Rankings. So I will see you guys next time, and peace out.